Hi everyone, this is Jorrel from Mintplex, here with my co-founder.
Timothy Karambat, the other co-founder.
Amazing. And if it wasn't obvious, we are the co-founders of Mintplex, a no-code NFT launchpad tool, everything. We're basically going to become, at some point in time, the Shopify for NFTs. I don't know. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Or for Web3 in general. Welcome to our second episode of this podcast. We're attempting to make it weekly, but we had some YC commitments last week into the weekend that have forced us to essentially not be functional for 4 days. Tim had a lot of fun, so did I, or at least I'm speaking for Tim. I don't know, Tim, did you have any fun at YC's end of batch stuff?
I had a fantastic time. My voice is kind of still a little hoarse just from all of the yelling.
I was like, oh, I didn't know YC went this hard. Oh my goodness gracious. It's funny because on Twitter, the actual YC event, the end of batch, the alumni day stuff, kind of went pseudo viral. Everybody saw all the line that wrapped around and everything.
It had to be like 3,000 something people there.
Yeah, well, Michael Siebel, the guy that everybody knows, is like in every video and every savage take for YC. He was actually planning for like 400 people to show up, and then like 3,000 people showed up instead. And it's like, hey, that's just how big the YC network is now. It's just a lot of people, but it was a lot of fun. But anyways, in the interest of time, Tim, let's just dive straight into the topics, just so everybody can kind of get to speed where we're at, and just give people some things to think about. And so today we're going to cover three things. We're going to cover something about how Mintplex is different, and then we'll go into what's going on with Web 2, Web 2.5, and how are they relevant to the current Web 3 space. So think like Chipotle, Starbucks, etc. And then we'll wrap up this podcast episode with consumer protection, which is a very interesting topic and something that Tim and I have been exploring more recently just due to a lot of very interesting occurrences that's been happening within our network. So to start things off, Tim, we get a lot of questions all the time. Okay, there's a competitor popping up every single day. I could name them and list them out, but it would just take forever. And probably as we're speaking, probably 10 more Mintplex competitors have popped up. So what differentiates us? Like, I know what differentiates us, but like listeners and even competitors listening to this podcast, what's our differentiator?
I mean, well, one of the key differentiators is us, because we ship way faster than any of our competitors. And it's funny because we've done more with less. A lot of them all have, 3-5 times the funding we have. And somehow yet we are always ahead. Isn't that always funny? But in terms of like, for a user, what makes us a lot different is I think it comes in multiple forms, to be completely honest. The first being that we actually help people like with their projects. There's that chat bubble on the bottom, and like we are responsive. You're actually talking to the founders. Like that's not something you get on other platforms. Yeah.
Like Jorrel? Like that guy's face right there? That's me.
Yeah, that's actually him. That's not just like his picture and it's some random dude like somewhere else in the world. No, that's actually Jorrel. The other thing is like it is so laughably, stupidly easy to write a smart contract for NFTs. That's why there are so many quote unquote competitors. The thing is that if you go to any of these other platforms, you'll get a contract, no doubt. And I'm sure it's a great contract. I'm sure it's low gas. I'm sure it's whatever they want to say, right? All of that is table stakes. Every contract you get from every generator is gas optimized, safe to use, has the features you might need. Maybe, I don't know. We have features that some other people still don't have for some reason. But you might also then get like a mint button that's probably hosted on like their website or something like that. All of that is like very, very like table stakes, whatever. You'll probably give them like a small percentage. That is probably the least important part of what Mintplex does. Obviously, it's important to you because that's how you get started, but that's not what makes Mintplex. What makes Mintplex special is the fact that you can launch with us. Sure, you can launch with a bunch of people, but with Mintplex, we are the only spot still in the entire Web3 ecosystem that gives you the tools to actually grow your community. We actually have integrations for like minting with fiat right out the box. You want to get analytics that are actually useful, not just on-chain analytics, because that doesn't tell you anything. Like, who are your holders? Where are they at? Gives you a great idea of the kind of personalities that are holding and participating in your community. You want to do snapshots, that's great. You want to do airdrops, we got it. You want to plug into Shopify. You want to go and then launch a 1155 token. All of that. We have all of it and a whole lot more coming. Nobody else is focusing on that. And I'm sure any creators that are listening to this, they realize if they've done this before, you launch a project, it is not so simple as doing one drop. Because once you do that first drop, you have a community and they want more. And what are you supposed to do? Just keep dropping NFTs forever? No. You need to start building a brand because that's what you did on accident without realizing it. And we actually help you build that brand in Web3 using native tools. We're the only place on the internet you can still do it.
So we had a lot of questions, I think, where it's like, hey, like your user experience and your design kind of needs an upgrade. So like, why, despite the fact a lot of competitors have like way better UI, UX, all those types of things, why do consumers continue to come to our platform? Like, why? Why does that happen?
I mean, they probably all have their own unique answers, but the one that we know is because we actually have the tools that they need. You know, we're not trying to like make up use cases that creators are trying to use NFTs for. We know what they are. Thankfully, our users are telling us that. We just build for those people. It's not even that really strategic or deep. Like they say, hey, we want to do X. Okay, great. We're going to allow you to do it. We're not going to try and force like our imagined reality onto the thing that you want, right? We're going to let you do the things that you want to do, and we're just going to build the tools to support that. Like, I mean, that's why they come to us. And like, I mean, it's not like the interface is unusable. It's certainly not the prettiest, that's for sure. But
I don't know. I think my eyes have like transformed to where I think it looks good now. But like, I remember first going into it, I was like, wow, oh, this thing's kind of jank.
It's way worse than Figma, but it is much better than Salesforce.
So most things are better than Salesforce, and yet people still use Salesforce. I think that's something a lot of people forget. It's like you might hate how Salesforce looks, but everybody's still using it, and it's become
if it saves people time and money, who cares what it looks like?
Absolutely. And so that kind of like leads me to the next question. Like when people are looking for, I guess, improvements, or they're looking for, I guess, the right tool for where they are. I don't think Mintplex is really the place for every single person trying to launch a tool or launch a project, right? Like, honestly, I think something you and I mentioned earlier was that, like way earlier when we first started, like Ramp, when it was Ramp, right? Was that this tool is mainly for people who like know what they're doing. It's mostly like an intermediate tool, right? And that's why we have partners like NFT and Web, right? Which I don't think enough people are actually like going out of the way to use. It is almost a one-click deploy smart contract, which is insane. Like, you just have to bring your layers, and if you go in, to Diamond Hands Hotel NFT and Web tool, you just create your randomizer, set your metadata, and boom, it's like one click and you have your smart contract.
It is so simple. It is so simple, especially if you're doing a generative collection. It is the simplest solution out there, and also it's free. It doesn't cost you anything. I know other tools just like it try to charge like an ETH for 10,000 images. It's free on NFT and Web. There's literally there's no reason why you should have to pay for your art.
Well, I mean, the only thing you have to pay for is deployment, but that's like standard. You can't get away.
You can't get away from that.
You have to pay for it. So but so that being said, right? It's like, once again, Mintplex, our differentiator is like we build a lot of tools, a lot of stuff that people want. These are like things we get like a lot of requests, and to all you listeners out there who are demanding staking and all these other crazy features, the only reason that we don't add it to our roadmap, the only reason that we don't do more of it, is because one, do we believe in the specific feature or tool that you guys are asking for? But two, is there enough demand for us to make it make the most sense to bring into our roadmap? Because we got a lot of priorities. I mean, a couple of things that are in our pipeline right now, like bulk airdrops and advanced analytics, those are things we've had to continuously push because, in favor of all of these other things that have popped up, right? And a lot of people were asking for, easy deployable mint sites. It wasn't something that people were explicitly asking, but they're always like, man, our websites never freaking work. And so we were eventually like, okay, well, let's go and provide it. And now we have it's like an 80% conversion. Almost everyone who launches
a mint site. Yeah.
They launch a mint site. That's crazy. I mean, and that's really where we're prioritizing for majority of our roadmap. It's, hey, do you guys want it? And if you don't, it'll come out sooner or later, depending on where the space is moving. And so that being said, space is moving. So let's switch topics here. I don't think there's much else to say around differentiators because it's so obvious. We're better, we're faster, we're stronger, right? No, I'm just kidding. That's a joke. Don't take it too seriously. Don't at me, please. Actually, at me.
No, at us. At us. We are.
Yeah, we are faster, better, stronger, right?
Yeah.
But I've been noticing a lot of these Web2 brands. I wrote in our couple newsletters ago, Starbucks adopted crypto and whatnot as part of their, or NFTs as part of the rewards program. Disney has been a sleeping giant. Everybody doesn't talk about them, but everybody should be talking about them because they have their own marketplace and they're literally partnering with Polygon Studios.
Yep.
And then today, at the time of this recording, or was it yesterday? No, it's today. Today at the time of this recording, Chipotle is yo, if you buy a burrito with crypto, you get 99% off. Something like that.
It's steak bowl. You get a steak bowl because proof of stake.
Yeah, proof of stake, right? So it's kind of crazy. A lot of these Web2 folks, the ones that matter, by the way. I'm not talking about, the musicians that are dropping stuff. I'm not talking about, I'm talking about the Web2 folks that
talking huge incumbents. All those people chip away at their own independent sectors, but we're talking massive multi-billion-dollar brands,
market movers. We're talking about market movers here. And the fact that we're seeing Disney, and then we're seeing Starbucks, who has a stronghold on the American heart, right? And then we see Chipotle, who has a stronghold in Tim's heart, moving like this. It's kind of crazy. What do you think's happening, Tim? Because before all these places, Disney was probably the first to move on it, but before, none of these Web 2 companies, which are just normal big brands, normal big, providers in the space, none of them would even touch crypto. Now all of them are just hey, let's see what happens. What's going on?
I think part of it is twofold. Part of it is definitely the ecological factor. So with Ethereum now moving to proof of stake and reducing its energy load by 99% or more, 99%. Or something like that.
It's great.
Yeah. It is now not toxic for a company that maybe was previously wanting to experiment with NFTs or using crypto as payment, because it's just another form of revenue for them, and it's not it's illegal for them to keep crypto on the books. This becomes honestly another just revenue opportunity for them. They know that if they can support these early waves and also do it with a good conscience, that's all benefits for a lot of these businesses. I think that's the reason you've been seeing Polygon being adopted over Ethereum, because of that whole energy and also cost, right? Polygon's not only cheaper to run, it is cheaper to use. So there's benefits there as well. I think that's why we're seeing brands start to kind of step into this. Chipotle has not ever been a very large proponent for crypto, like GameStop has, right, before them. And now with proof of stake, Chipotle has partnered with, I believe that's a fiat on-ramp platform.
Yeah, Flexa or something like that.
Yeah, Flexa. Yeah, Flexa. And so they're running this promotion, which is interesting because I am interested to see what the numbers might be if they ever do share them, of new accounts that were created where people newly onboarded fiat into ETH and then, use the deal. I have a feeling it will probably still be mostly crypto native people using it. And the reason for that is, does stake bowls really drive user adoption? Probably not, right? I'm really waiting to see what Disney is trying to do. That's the one that I'm like, I'd be interested to see.
What if it was proof of chicken instead? Would you go, Tim?
I get chicken bowls when I go to Chipotle. I would have done chicken, yes.
See,
proof of chicken. If we had named it proof of chicken, the deal would have been for me.
See, that's just Chipotle messing up there.
Yeah,
like they could have solved it. They could have solved the mass adoption issue if they had just chosen chicken instead of steak, and they had to choose steak.
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is.
I don't know, man. They really dropped the ball on this one. Actually, this is something not controversial, I'm going to say, but I think it just makes the most logical sense. When we switched to proof of stake, and it turned out that there were three entities that had the largest stake in Ethereum. It's split between three people. It's like Coinbase, Lido Finance, and then there's just other big holders of staked ETH, right? I actually think that inspired more confidence in these brands moving over than actually the energy consumption.
To show that maybe like the network was supported, I guess you could say, by other like big names in space. I mean, Coinbase is a pretty household name in crypto. Lido is too, but I mean, you'd have to be pretty involved in the space to know about Lido Finance.
Yeah. But that's kind of where I think the reason that these companies actually ended up jumping into it was actually because it proved that there were more centralized folks that had the confidence and had almost like an insurance, right? Almost had like a support layer to say, hey, there's not going to be a bank run, right? Because I think that's like the scariest thing about decentralized finance. And like, even, I mean, this is like NFTs and whatnot too, but like, if everybody runs away, how can we go and actually trust that the system isn't going to collapse under itself when people start acting irrationally, right? Like, that's where I think, and this, once again, like, I have no strong like conviction around this idea, but it just made more sense to me, as opposed to like, oh my gosh, they all of a sudden cared about the environment. These companies did not care about the environment.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, because Chipotle's, giving people E. coli at least once or twice a year. So, I guess you can't say too much about the environment.
Yeah, these businesses are not like, oh my gosh, like, oh, energy consumption, I'm going to go and do this now. It's like, no, because, like, once again, Disney literally runs Disneyland and all these other theme parks around the world that use up an insane amount of resources because they create magic, okay? Like, they don't care about energy consumption.
No, that's true. Also, though, you got to think about it. Crypto has an insane PR problem, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Like, people just hate it with so much vitriol, and they don't even know why. It just was their favorite, like, YouTuber just told them to hate it, and so now they hate it.
Yeah.
Like,
YouTuber and streamers, 100%.
Yeah, YouTuber or streamer is just, like, hates crypto, and so now they're like, that's a good opinion. I'm going to form that into my own. And then they just kind of parrot that forever. And so I think that might have been the part that they wanted to avoid.
Oh yeah, no, it was a perfect combination. I think from the PR standpoint, marketing was like, oh, beautiful, okay, like energy goes down, money numbers go up, woohoo, right? And then on the other hand, like from the business standpoint, people were like, oh shoot, okay, it has de-risked immensely because at least 50% or 60% of the entire Ethereum network is being uplifted by a few entities. Right?
Yeah, which some people would say is like a huge ding to decentralization, but I think we can all candidly be pretty honest. The average consumer does not know or care about the decentralized aspect of it. I mean, I just don't think I actually think, if anything, that makes them feel better about it, because they the last topic is about consumer protection. Ultimately, that's what people want. They want to feel safe using crypto. And right now, it's a wild west.
Yeah. I mean, it's almost like entering into a social contract. You know what I mean? It's like, the social contract, the things that made governments possible, or, whatever the heck. Right? It's like, we got through DeFi. DeFi is like the economic infrastructure. But now we have to kind of have like some sort of policy infrastructure. And that's kind of what we're seeing, at least in my opinion. I feel like that's what we're seeing right now. Is like, hey, this is a governing body now. Like Coinbase, whether they wanted to or not, even though I remember Brian Armstrong saying this explicitly, he had no intention originally to go in and like make a centralized exchange. He was like, this stuff's going to be hard. This is going to be bad. But ultimately, user adoption is entirely reliant on making sure that there is some sort of like way to ensure that they're not going to be scammed, right?
Some kind of safety net.
Absolutely, a safety net, regardless of how people are like, oh, decentralized, oh, full government. It's like, okay, yes, but once there is no authority, who is the authority? And we all know that a million people can't agree on one thing, so there has to be some sort of thing we default to, right?
Yeah.
And so, but not, we'll see how this turns out. Tim and I are not saying that we're like geniuses that can see the future, but it's just like, it's kind of sus. It's like, you kind of have to suss it out. And like, ultimately, if I were a true Web 2 company and I'd been seeing these movements, I'd have a little more trust now that I know that there are these bodies that have a bit more push and pull and have the right ethos too. Really big thing is Coinbase is like, at the end of the day, it's like consumer friendly. That's really it. But anyways, let's move on to our third topic, because I think this one is like super interesting and like we already touched upon a little bit. Scamminess. And like, how do we ensure that people feel like safe when they enter into this market? How do we make people feel safe when they're going into this, that they're not going to be, like in RuneScape, dragged to the corner and looted for all their stuff?
It's like meet me in Wildy, and then they just rob you.
That happened to me too. That literally
happened to me.
Oh,
my
like
best friend stole my full plate of rune armor, like when I got it for the first time, and like we're still friends to this day. He's like my best friend. I've been friends with him since I was like 4. I give him shit about this all the time, frequently, because he freaking robbed me of my rune armor, and that is legitimately like my first experience losing an NFT. That is essentially exactly what that is. That is the exact situation. It just happened. It happens on chain if it happens. I can say this much. Think, like, if you're listening or us personally, think about how daunting the like interfacing with just MetaMask was when you first started. It is so easy to make a mistake, and like, yes, phishing is obviously like that's the most prevalent way that people wind up losing access to their wallet. That's definitely how it happens. Phishing, like anti-phishing businesses and tools, that's like $1 billion industry still, just to keep Debbie in accounting from clicking on a malicious PDF that ends in .exe. Like that's $1 billion industry. And so like how do we build tools or protocols or standards that allow users to freely participate in Web3 in a decentralized manner where they can self-custody, but in the event something bad happens, how do you make them whole? How do they get restitution? Like, because the more people entering the space, they're not going to know as much, and they're going to be susceptible to scams. The more people in it, the more scams will occur. And so how do you stop these scams from being so effective? Like, what do we do for consumers in this space? I think that is a big open-ended question right now.
Yeah, and the thing is to like compound on that open-ended question, because I think there's going to be people who are like, well, just don't get scammed, or well, education, or just get smarter. Yo, we had a handful of friends the past few weeks that are very good, by the way. They're very, very native to the space. They know what they're doing, all that stuff, and they still got phished. Like they did all the things that they thought were all the protections they thought were all, what's the word for it? Safe and trustworthy. And they still lost NFTs. They still lost crypto. They still had a wallet that got liquidated. Yeah. And really, I mean, that's the whole point. Isn't that, hey, if you're just better at defending, you'll just be, personally, you'll just be good. It's like, no, like even if the best people are also getting affected by it, you're going to make a lot of people outside the space more unwilling to try.
It could, and it can happen to anybody. Like these scams can get increasingly sophisticated as more money is on the line. Like it just becomes hard. And there's some people out there right now working on solutions around the problem, right? They have a couple companies right now that are doing essentially like pre-transactions, right? Where it's like you're about to do something, you can essentially simulate the entire thing end to end. I think that is a good solution for the more technical person. I think that is a very bad solution for a consumer. The end consumer, think about, even when I make a transaction on the blockchain, like, do I have a absolutely 100% clear understanding of how every single bit of data might move around, especially if it's a sophisticated transaction where it interfaces with multiple contracts, or maybe like you're doing a flash loan or something like that? Like, no. Like, most people aren't going to understand, like, oh yeah, no, the expected thing is for these 3 tokens to get burned and for me to get 1 token back, like blah blah, like all of this stuff, is like, like, I don't think that that's a great solution for consumers. Like, I just think that a lot more work needs to be done in the consumer aspect of this, because that's who needs to be protected.
Yeah, I mean, the big thing as well is, as much, and this is kind of a theme from our last little topic here, people are so afraid of just creating like authorities or centralized authorities, but everything we do requires some level of authoritization, right? We have the government, we even have our banks. Banks have to talk to each other in order to like assess that a transaction, is good. And they also have they have defraud protection, right? They have all these things, these mechanisms that just don't frankly exist in DeFi. And yet people are all saying this is going to be the way, this is the future. And yet the people who probably need it the most are the least capable of actually using this technology without losing everything they have. Yeah. Because we have a lot of founder friends that work on solutions for Latin America and Southeast Asia for the bankless folks. Do you think they know how to not interact with a phishing link? Do you think they know how to not, put themselves in a compromising situation inside of the blockchain? No, they don't. And so it's like, you can't just tell them, hey, go fend for yourself. It's like, what the?
No, there needs to be more in front of that. And like, I mean, they had that, what is it? It was like, that course or that group that Stanford made, right? They tried to come up with this new standard, which, again, it wasn't even a standard. It's more like just like an added functionality to a contract. That doesn't make it a standard. Everyone just likes to put like ERC 721 and then whatever letter sounds cool. That doesn't make it a new standard.
ERC 721 PP?
Yeah, it doesn't. We don't need to talk about that. But like with this new standard, it was like ERC 721R, I think is what they were calling it. It would essentially allow essentially a DAO to vote and use governance tokens to essentially repeal the ownership of someone's token. So like essentially the contract could revoke a token without the owner's permission and put it somewhere else. And that sounds like a great idea until you think about how often a DAO votes and how participation is a massive problem in DAOs. And I think that becomes very clear that is not the right issue. That is not the right solution to that problem. Because also, I mean, how many times have people liquidated an entire DeFi protocol by doing some crazy series of swaps to where they could then buy a shit ton of a DAO's token and then make a proposal to liquidate the entire DAO into some random wallet, and because they own all the tokens, it passes immediately. Like there is way too many problems and moving parts there. That is not, in my opinion, how this kind of refund should be done.
Yeah. Also, let's think about too the timelines, right? Like, we have experience working with DAOs, and it's like 2 or 3 months later. Like, mind you, the space hasn't even been, the DAO tooling and DAOs in general have not even been around for a year. And the expected timeline for like things to actually get executed on is like 2-3 months.
It takes forever.
Like, it takes forever for things to actually get, like, especially, so think about it, right? Let's say something does happen. Let's say that a lot of people's wallets in a certain community get liquidated. How are you going to vote on 100 different people's wallets every time?
Also, is the average person informed enough to even make a decision on their vote? Like, the amount, like, you have to have a very in-depth understanding of not only existing like internet infrastructure to know how phishing and all of the traditional stuff works. you also have to have a pretty in-depth understanding of how the blockchain works and how to navigate the blockchain and transactions and all of these other things that then also you would need to know. I think most people want to just be part of a community. They didn't sign up to be their IT, you know? And what are they going to be like? Okay, like, we got a ticket for a claim. Okay, everybody needs to hop on. Like, no. Like, any Bored Ape holder is not there to do tech support for any other Bored Ape holder. There just happen to be some technical people in that community. Like, when people buy tokens for a community, you're a community member. You're not for hire on-chain sleuth. Like, that doesn't make sense. That's just not a scalable solution, especially if 400 people all just start sending, BS claims,
Oh yeah, absolutely. And that would be inevitable. You're gonna basically
Yeah.
clog up all the voting stuff that your DAO would be just people getting scammed
Pretending
and
to
trying
claim.
and just
Or
claiming
sending
stuff.
it to another wallet and then being like, oh, I got scammed, so that they can get their token back and their money or something like that. Who knows? Who knows?
Yeah, infinite
So,
money glitch or something like that, right?
yeah, probably. They tried to.
Yeah, so but as we're wrapping up this episode of our weekly podcast, I do have a one kind of interesting thought experiment, just for like listeners out there to think about, as well as you, Tim, if you have any initial thoughts about this. So in a world, I think this is something that we talked with X-Lawyer about too before. In a world where this type of thing becomes mass adopted, I'm talking about NFTs, NFT infrastructure, and everybody's using it. What role, if we were to have a governing body, what role would that governing body have in let's say refunding NFTs, right? Or let's say someone gets scammed and
Yeah.
they need to get their money. Like, what does that look like? Like, what would that look like in this
Honestly,
future?
it looks like an insurance company. Like, as boring as that sounds, I think that's what they look like. I think they look like an insurance company, and it won't be an existing insurance company, because like if Geico started to insure, like they insure a lot of things, a lot of random stuff. They'll even insure your actual art in your house. Like, you can get insurance for that. Like, the people who make those assessments have to be experts in whatever it is they're assessing, and the insurance agency is perpetually 20 years behind whatever it is that's current, right? That's a very slow moving industry. But in order for more people to get adopted, I think there need to be a collective or a group or a company or some central authority of people who are experts in being in, like, essentially on-chain assets, evaluating their worth and also their risk, and all of the other actuarial data points that go into essentially what comes up to be a premium. But like, because at the end of the day, like, our friends that we know where they had their stuff stolen from them, right? Getting the NFT back is not too big of a deal, because if they can get the money, they can just buy whatever one they want on the open market. That's never been really a problem. What they actually want is just to be made whole. It's kind of like when it's like if your house ever got broken into and they stole your TV, you don't give a shit what TV your TV. You just need the money to go buy a replacement TV. Like, people care about being made whole, not about the actual asset themselves. Now, of course, some people have an identity around their entire online asset with NFTs, but all of these things can be solved for if they are just made whole. I honestly think the centralized authority for NFT adoption in the future looks like insurance.
And that makes a lot of sense, I think, right? When we think about the companies like Disney, Starbucks, Chipotle, and all these other new Web2 companies, they would probably want the same level of safety and security and support, a support system in case, imagine their collection got stolen, right?
Yeah.
Like the stuff that they're doing, or they lose access to their wallet because it got compromised. Like, they don't actually care too much about the collection. They can turn the knobs off and on. They care about the cost of all of that, right?
Yeah.
So that makes sense. I mean, so to all you listeners, think about that. I would think about that a little bit, as we wrap up today's podcast. What does the future of NFTs as a consumer tool, NFTs and non-fungible tokens in this environment look like? And yeah, like, now that these bigger players are coming into the space, how does the space evolve further? How do we create it so that more and more consumers are comfortable to participate? How do we make wallets better? And how do we make wallets better too, right? I'm wearing Chain Sites, friend of ours, Ernie, shout out. I'm wearing his shirt right now. Let's go. There's a lot of really cool tools out there that are being built, and hopefully that inspires some of you to think about where the space is moving, and you can come and join us as we build together. So, any final thoughts, Tim, before I wrap up today's Mintplexity? I forgot to call the podcast its name.
Honestly, my only thought is like the GM tweet thing is getting really annoying. Like on Twitter, people keep saying GM. That's getting really annoying.
Oh, it's like it's like a year old already now. Ugh.
Yeah. It feels dated. I don't know why. It feels dated already, and I don't know why.
That and Sir has been getting really dated.
Oh yeah, Sir. Yeah. Sir. Which, by the way, we get it. Like, you want to be friendly, but like, if you're on intercom, don't do Sir. Like that. Don't do that.
Yeah, don't do SDR. It's cringe.
Please don't. We're still gonna help you, but like, we're gonna be like, come on, like, really? We get it. You're already on our site. You're in Web3. We believe you. So.
Yeah. That doesn't. We're not speaking the same language. It's not like hey, we're speaking the same language now. Yeah, just stop on that.
That's been my only thought. That's I don't know why that particularly has bugged me recently. So.
Oh, man. Well, it's been over a year, man. It's been over a year now since this whole space kind of adopted that vernacular. So I get it.
Yeah.
But anyways, as always, make sure to test on testnet and do your things there, and follow us on our various socials if you haven't already. We're on Twitter. We're on Instagram now. We're also surprisingly on LinkedIn. Don't message us on LinkedIn. We probably won't respond.
Absolutely.
And talk to us on Intercom if you have any questions or if there's anything you want us to talk about. We actually have a lot more things we're interested in talking about as the going goes forward. We're considering bringing on some guests, some of our founders, partner friends as well, so that y'all can get a better perspective about the things happening in Web3 from the builder side, and not from the collector side. But as always, have a great week, have a great life, and we will talk to you guys in the next episode. Peace.
Peace.